Hello, good afternoon. Today our guest is Dr. Collins Edigin. Hello, Professor Edigin. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Okay, I'm good.
And Edigin, where are you from in Nigeria?
I'm from Benin. Benin.
Yes, the great Benin Empire. So Edigin, today we're going to be talking about one of your articles published in the African Economic History Network, titled Consensual Taxation Without Institutional Development, The Contradiction of British Colonial Taxation in Benin, Nigeria, 1897 to 1945. But before we do so, Collins, we're going to talk briefly about the Uber of Benin. I really enjoy the parts of your article that describe the Uber of Benin.
Okay.
Who is
So
the
yeah,
Uber
we
of
are,
Benin? Yes, I'm really interested in the Uber of Benin.
okay. So in the pre-colonial time, Benin was actually a kingdom, and not just a kingdom. It was a kingdom that commanded a lot of respect. As was able to conquer a lot of neighboring states, even as far as other countries. Even like for example, present day Nigeria. Yes, Benin is a part of present day Nigeria. We have a Benin. This thing. I think it's not Dahomey. No, it's Benin. This thing. Republic. So Benin conquered a lot of the Yoruba speaking area, the Benin part of Benin. This is republic. In fact, it was not only a kingdom, it was actually an empire. So it has a vast territory, and it was the way and manner they were able to sustain in throughout the although there were some internal unrest, but you never hear that Benin was actually conquered until 1897. Like you hear about other, like for example, you had some other great empires, but maybe they did not really last. But Benin, in fact, we first started with the Ogiso dynasty. The Ogiso dynasty was the first dynasty in Benin. But under the Ogiso dynasty, Benin was just located to just a small area. But under the Oba dynasty, or we call it the Eweka dynasty, or that expansion, and the expansion actually began with a particular king called Oba Eware. Oba Eware, some people call him the warrior king. He began the era of the warrior king. The warrior kings in Benin, we have the Oba Eware, the Oba Esige, the Oba Ozuola, the Oba 3 or 4 kings. So those were the one that there was vast empire. But beyond that, what they also used their mystical power, because the Oba was now became seen as a god. Not only He was not only seen as a person, he was actually seen as you ask the Oba Ewari, he was able to imbibe a lot of semi-mystical values into the kingship and this system of Benin. So the Oba was feared and actually revered. So that's why what the Oba's word was law. It was law. So he was able to command a lot of respect, conquer the vassal state. Then there was in terms of the economy, and because they had a vast empire, the economy is very good. Benin was involved in trade with different, with the effort. In fact, in this transatlantic trade, no, not this Atlantic, this trans-Saharan trade. That is the trade between West African and North African. Benin was actually involved. Benin, at the part, you find out that there were horses. Benin used horses. So you found out that a lot of goods and everything from North Africa, they were located in Benin. So you could say that Benin, as far as the 15th century, Benin was also already a vast empire conquering other kingdom. They also talk about when the Europeans visited, they were amazed at the bronze casting, the bronze work. That was why in 1897, when they conquered Benin, they said, how would you fund the war? And they said no. They said right, it will be funded by the casting, the artifacts in the kingdom, in the palace. And that was after that war, there was a great looting. So you talk about in Nigeria, one of the most respect beyond the you see a caution of debate, which is the greatest. So we have three in contention: the Benin Empire, the Oyo Empire, and the Fulani, that is the the Usman Danfodio, the Hausa, the Fulani Empire.
The
In
Sokoto
18,
Caliphate.
yeah, the Sokoto Caliphate. Yes, yes, yes. So those three. So is the caution of debate, but everybody will always say, okay, this one. But one thing, what's unique about being like the Sokoto Caliphate, it was great. Maybe for like 100 before 18, before it was not 1804, there was this jihad, the jihad. Before that jihad, nobody knew about the Hausa, nobody knew about the Fulani, and they were great for just about 100 years because by 1900 they were already conquered by the British. So you can say they were famous for just 100 years. Then you have the Oyo Empire. The Oyo Empire was not really a great conquering power. The great Oyo Empire was actually just a center, just like that is the Oyo Empire was like the mystical, the house of the Yorubas among the Yorubas in Nigeria. The progenitor founder, that is Oduduwa. He was a resident in the Oyo Empire. So the Oyo Empire was like a spiritual center, like a spiritual capital of the Yoruba Empire. So there was this kind of respect. So it was more or less like a spiritual center, but it was not really like a political center. They just commanded them some form of respect. And when it comes to all those coronation, you must always go to Oyo and everything. So there was that respect. But Benin was not. Benin was first. Benin was a spiritual center, as in all the other Edo speaking people during the coronation. They must always go to the Oba of Benin for his blessings and everything. It was a spiritual blessing. It was also a political capital. What I mean is political capital. Yes, it was also a political capital. It was also a military center. There was also a in terms of craft, it was also a major capital. So we found out that Benin has many attributes that made this game. And why the Oba of Benin was so popular is that everything revolved around the Oba of Benin. Everything revolved around the Oba. Like I said, when it comes to the craft, it was in control. When it comes to the military, it was in control. When it comes to politics and everything, it was in control. When it comes to spirit, mystical power, it was in control. So the Oba of Benin, and another thing is that the Oba of the Benin Empire, it was famous for a very long time, very long time. We're talking about although like I said, under the Ogiso dynasty, it was not but from the 15th century, that means 1400 to about 1897, that was 400 years. Benin was very was a major capital in West Africa and the world. So it was famous for a very long time. So
So
that's just like a brief. If there's a particular aspect of the Benin, I'm just trying to touch different area. But if there's certain aspect of the Benin Empire, I want me to talk about the Benin.
yeah, I'm going to allow you to continue, but you commented that the Oyo Empire was a spiritual center, and the historian Robin Law, he has great respect for the Oyo Empire, and I'm sure that many of your colleagues do view the Oyo Empire as a great imperial power in West Africa. But you're saying that
Yes, yes.
you're downplaying the significance of the Oyo Empire.
You don't know say about I'm talking about the Europe. For example, you have Ibadan. Ibadan was a very major. We're talking about they were different in the Oyo Empire. They had different centers that were major political. They were major military centers at different times. Let me just put it at different times. But the Oyo Empire himself, no, the Oyo Empire was equally a major center. One center. They fought a lot of wars and everything. But like I said, it's also but in terms of majorly, because one thing about the Oyo Empire is that they were the rise and fall. Let me just put it like that. There was a rise and a fall. But the Benin Empire remains stable for a much longer period. So let me just say that's the major center. Yes, there was once upon a time the Oyo Empire was a major. They were involved in trade and everything. And they conquered a lot of all those Yoruba center, even part of the present day middle belt of Nigeria. They were all present day Ilorin. They were all under the Oyo Empire. The Oyo Empire was a major center. No, even in terms of craft. even in terms of all those bronze work and everything. But the Oyo Empire, for example, now all the the Europeans they don't really talk about the Oyo, the bronze casting of the Oyo, no, but they talk about the bronze casting of the Benin. So the Benin was definitely ahead. They was definitely more famous. So I think the one of the major difference between the Oyo Empire and the Benin Empire is that the Benin Empire was more stable, was famous for a very long time, while the Oyo Empire at different times, at one certain time, Ibadan was just on its own. They were just on the class of its own conquer. But after some time, they were equally conquered. So you had different parts famous at different times. But Benin was not parts. Everything revolved around the Oba. So we could not now say, okay, at this point, it was the Asian people or it was the maybe Shek, or another group that was famous within the Benin Empire. No, it was always everything always revolved around the Oba of Benin. So you can say throughout that period, the Benin Empire was famous from 1400 to 1897. Benin was a great empire. So that spanned about 400 or 500 years. But in the Yoruba Empire, you can pick periods, you can say, okay, for 50 years, for 100 years, or this within the Oyo Empire, they were famous. But it was not done like that in Benin. So I think that's a major difference.
I do agree with your argument pertaining to the longevity of the Benin Empire. The Benin Empire, even today, is still highly respected in Benin, where you said the Oyo Empire was successful for a period of time until it was conquered by, I believe, the Ilorina. Am I pronouncing that name properly?
Lauren, yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. And it's still a product of the jihad. It was still the Sokoto jihad, the jihad that took place in the north that actually led to the downfall of the Oyo Empire. And there was still some infighting. You have the Ara Kankafo. There was still some infighting, some betrayers within the Oyo Empire. That led to the downfall. Well, I'm not saying those things actually happened in Benin. Benin, there were a lot of internal there were a lot of you see there was a time there were a lot of skill chiefs that were equally, I will not say rivals. You have the one at the time, the Olia was a thorn on the flesh. In fact, there was a war that Benin fought with Ida. It was said that it was instigated by the Olia. There were the Ilias, Iyase. There were different people, but I think the Oba was able to create titles. So when a particular chief like rival the Oba, we saw the chief as a threat, the Oba was able to create a title that will actually sideline the other person. But somehow through a lot of intrigues and political acumen, the hub and through spiritual power, the Oba was able to maintain his authority for a very long period. And the Oba was not only seen as a mystical power, or he was seen as all, he was always all in one, political, military, at that, especially between the 14th century, even though I think by around the 17th or the 18th century, the Oba stopped going to war because one of the Oba, say Oba Ekengu that died at the war. But the Oba now created a war chief that they called the Ezomo. So the Ezomo was not loyal to the Oba. So there's a way the Oba, either directly or indirectly, was able to command both political, military, authority throughout the
Let
kingdom.
me read the third page of your article. It's about the Oba of Benin. And you write, pre-colonial Benin was a traditional society where the Oba was regarded as a divine king with authority from the gods and ancestors. The very existence and prosperity of the people was thought to be tied to the elaborate state rituals performed by the Oba and his chiefs. The Benin communities were therefore bound together by the belief that their well-being depended on the proper deployment of the Oba's own divine energy and of ritual authority as the intermediary with his predecessors, and upon their acceptance of the need for the king, chiefs, and people to cooperate in ensuring that these functions were fruitfully deployed. So people in the Benin Empire, they were willing to provide tribute and support the Oba in other ways because based on their philosophy, this legitimated his rule, their existence, and ensured peace and stability.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Because I think the Oba was able to there was the ideological, because people believe that the Oba, like I said, the Oba was a real spiritual, was he has he believed to have a mystical powers, and it's not even, it was not even like the, I think in the reign of Oba Eware, he actually took it Eware the first. He actually took it into a higher level, whereby it was both a military power, military. But right from time, the Hoba was seen as a god, as a god, and people feel that they are well-being. For example, they feel they, then it was basically an agrarian society, so they needed rain and everything. So they knew that they needed to appease the Oba. Once they appease the Oba will do perform some sacrifice, and we will ensure their well-being like good harvest, no death and everything. Then we didn't have all those medical cares. So everybody, so it was, I would say, kind of like a theocratic society. Actually, everything was seen as divine. Oh, what happened? The gods are angry. Like that's why Ola wrote to me, wrote a book one certain time that the gods are not to blame. I don't know whether you have read the book. And the book was like, the gods, because there was a time whereby everything, oh, what happened? God is angry. But right now, I'm a Christian, I believe in God. But there are certain things. For example, my phone, if my phone were to fall down, I would say, oh, perhaps I made a mistake or something. But in those goods, they will say, oh no, it's the gods and everything. So every causation in history, their causation, every cause and effect were all attributed to divine providence. And we believe that life and death and everything. Well, so the Oba was seen like the like that. It was seen as if like they wanted to appease the Oba for their well-being. They believe that the Oba had authority from the gods. So and two, the Oba was like the intermediary, and the one and two. Then I think before the 15th century, before the arrival of the white men, then the gods were seen as the ancestors. I don't know whether, are you familiar with the ancestors are the diseased obas. They believe that they will believe with this thing, as we believe in Benin. We believe there's something called this ancestry, the ancestors. The ancestors are the dead people. They believe that in heaven they were the ancestors, and these ancestors, they were still playing an active role in the life of the living, of their living and this relative, ensuring their this well-being. So, and they believe that the intermediary for the kingdom was the Oba. Then for the household, the most senior son. That's why at the death of every man in Benin, then the most senior son, there's a particular altar the person will build to actually, they perform some kind of sacrifice to actually communicate with their dead father. I believe that they believe that dead father, that person may be dead in the physical, but they believe that his spirit is in heaven and is making this intercession for them. So that's why the first son was always very, very important, because it was that first son that was to perform sacrifice and communicate with their dead father, and to ensure their well-being, just like that. So the way in the household the Oba did that. No, the way in the household the first son did that. In the villages, it was we call them it was the village heirs or the enogie. It was called either we call it the enogie or the ojonwere. So those were the village heirs. They make intercessions. So when an ojonwere dies, or the enogie of the particular village, so believe that all those dead Enuge, they see have powers in the spiritual realm to ensure their well-being, their good fortune, to prevent the death, to prevent premature death, good harvest, good fortune and everything. So the Oba was the one playing that role in the kingdom. So that was why they actually played. That was the philosophy behind paying a tribute to the Oba. So they believe that one needed to assist him. Yes, needed to assist him economically, but they believe that they actually needed to play their role so that the Oba can perform all those sacrifices which they needed for their good fortune on life, on earth.
And you also posit that in the Benin Empire, the people considered themselves to be the slaves of the Oba.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. There was a master-servant relationship. Like for example, I'm in the UK now. Everybody's, oh, my partner, my this. No, it was not the man was the head, the wife, and so just like in the family, like then the wife was not like a partner. The wife was almost like that's why it's called husband and wife. So likewise they were like the slaves of the Oba. The Oba's word was law. The Oba was a king. He was seen as a god. So that was the level the Oba. For example, in a democracy, our political rep, they are holding power in trust for the people. But for a kingdom, it's not like that. It's not like that. The king was there because he had spiritual, and we believe that that's why at the death of every Oba, it was his first son that will actually succeed him. So they believe that in that family they had spiritual. That was why the coronation is very, very important. Yeah, so believe that when the death Oba by they would do this coronation to not give the new Oba to form of spiritual power. So once the Oba is in the throne, the Oba is a god. Every other person they were slaves to the Oba. But when I mean slaves, it's not the harsh word of say, oh, they were slaves, the Oba was bullying them and everything. No, they were slaves. That way, when I mean slave, they were loyal to the Oba, that the Oba ensured their well-being. So in mostly there was a two-way thing. So it was not like slavery that like we read some story of the Egyptian or the empire, the ruin of Pharaoh, whereby the children of Israel they were just slaves. They were just like they say in politics, the drawers of water. They have no say. Yes, it was not really like yes, the people did not really. The Oba was their father. The Oba was their father. It was when I meet slave, it's just like between a father and a child. The Oba was a father. His authority was law. He was there to protect the people, but he was not a slave in terms of sometimes you talk about slaves, the and the king. There are some of them they don't, and he was ensuring their well-being. He had their well-being. He was there to ensure their welfare. So it was not a slave. It was not a master-servant relationship whereby the king did not have the interest of the people at heart. No, he had their total interest at heart. What the people, in terms of loyalty, they were more or less like slaves to the Oba. That's why they paid tribute to the Oba. They were total when the Oba says anything, it was a king, it was like a god. Just like for example, do we question? I don't know. Are you a Christian or a Muslim?
I'm from the Christian tradition.
Okay,
Christian,
just
yes.
like we don't. Yes, we don't question God when God says everything is what is but we know what we pray to God. We pray to God and we know that God is our Father. Is there to help us. So that was the so when people pay they pay their tribute and everything, they know that was like a sacrifice. That was they actually give to the Oba to actually ensure their this well-being. But the bottom line that they could not really challenge the Oba the way we go in the democratic system. We could challenge and say no. This you hear story of a men going to the palace and the Oba say, "This is your wife. I'm going to marry her today," and they say yes, and that was it. So that's why to the palace then people don't take their wife. In fact, women did not really go to the palace. Women were seen as lesser. But if the Oba was to see a woman and say he wants to marry her today to that day, he does. What the Oba says is final. So the husband had like ultimate authority. But the husband was not autocratic. There were always checks. There was always checks. So that's why in the Benin they had different council. We had the Oba's council. There were different council. When the Oba was becoming autocratic, I know there were cases if the Oba becoming autocratic, the kings they could usually gang up and there's a way. No, if the Oba could not be autocratic because the Oba was bound by oath. The Oba was bound by oath. So because that's why there was a very elaborate coronation. For example, the coronation of the Oba of Benin it takes as much as 6 months. 6 months. So you go to a lot of spiritual drilling. So those things they prevent the Oba from becoming autocratic. You now become a god. The people are seen as his children and everything. They ensure their welfare and their well-being. And while the people are totally loyal to him. In Benin, the issue of Benin, I didn't hear of any. There was no story of the Oba. I know there was story of the non-native living Benin, like on the Oba Eware. There were states whereby yes, you can see there two kind of they were the for the indigenous, no, the Oba could not be harsh to the medicine citizen. But I know that there was a time that the non-native they had to now leave. Certainly people now leave, they now left Benin because they felt that the Oba was becoming too harsh and everything. But generally, it was not really there was no story of the Oba becoming too decent or autocratic.
Mm. Interesting story, Collins. So, Collins, now we're going to talk about colonialism. But before we begin this part of the conversation, what was the tax system like in Benin before the emergence of colonialism in Benin?
Okay, before the emergence of colonialism, no, it was
What was the
actually
tax system like?
uh,
Yes.
yes, it was actually the tribal system that was outside. Are you doing a master's or a PhD or just a research?
I'm just a YouTuber. I'm a business analyst and YouTuber. I like to research. I'm a writer.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
Yes.
I went to okay. So before, like you said, it's just actually tribute. Like right now, we'll have what they call taxes. The one of the philosophy behind taxes is that taxes is used for the welfare of the people and everything. And people pay taxes in money, but in tribute is actually paid in kind. So tribute, they could actually pay tribute in yam, that is farm produce, in carrots and everything. So, and the philosophy behind the payment of tributes is that the Oba was seen, like I said, was seen as a god. It's a main mystical people. It's a main mystical king, and for their welfare, the people had to pay tribute to the Oba. So, at the village level, the people, but the tribute was not something that was not something that it was in agricultural this thing that produce. So at the village level, they pay tribute to their to the to the village heads. So they pay tribute. The village head takes a portion. The other they are taken to the Oba's palace. And the Oba had there was a system. The Oba did not just leave everything for the village head. There were certain people in the palace they call sponsors. All those they were called sponsors. So all those people they were in charge of different kind of villages to actually monitor the payment of tributes. So the Oba had the personnel. All those people they did not live in the villages. They were from Benin. They were from Benin, but they go to their villages to actually ensure the payment of tribute. But generally, there was really like within Benin, there was really no the payment of tribute was actually quasi-voluntary. When I mean quasi-voluntary, it was almost voluntary because people felt that it was in their best interest. Because if they want to, because in order to advance life issues, you have to avoid life issues. They needed to like appease the gods. They needed the Oba to perform all those medicine sacrifice to ensure goodwill, to ensure favor and everything. So it's something that they paid voluntarily. It's not something that was very difficult. But where it became tricky was outside the kingdom. There were some even among the Edo speaking people, they call it paid quasi voluntarily because they believe the Oba of Benin was a king, semi mystical person, king. So they actually paid tribute. But like I said, Benin was an empire, not only a kingdom. We conquered both the Benin and the non-Benin area. So you find out that he conquers some non-Benin area, and those ones, even though for throughout that period, some of them we I think they were to pay annual tribute, but some of time they will actually rebel. So that's why the Oba of Benin will have to send military campaign to actually defeat them. Yeah, so that's why the Benin were always fighting war. But why Benin was great is that in most cases they were always winning the war. So when once a vassal state rebel against the Oba of Benin, they send troops and to actually compel them to, and the way to way as a sign of loyalty, submission was the payment of tribute. So any vassal state that paid tribute, we know that okay, all those ones are actually loyal to the Oba. Anyone that actually to actually fail, it means that the vassal state have actually rebelled. So at that point, it was actually military. So for the Benin people, or for the Benin speaking group, but when I mean the Benin speaking group, we have to know that they were the Benin that live basically in Benin City, but they were the non-Benin, but they were Edo speaking people. Like among the Edo speaking people, Benin is just one of the group among the Edo speaking people. There were other group. We had the Asian, the Isako and everything, but all those ones they were still loyal because they all spoke a broader Edo language. And so all those ones they have similar culture. But we're talking about when like for example, all those Ekiti, Benin conquered that's among the Yoruba speaking area, all those Ondo, they conquered all those areas. And so where all those ones were weak, so they could not challenge it. But when they believe that they actually gain gain some kind of strength, they will actually revolt by stop paying them tribute. So that's when the Benin will actually get them the troop. So you can see the payment of tribute within the kingdom. You was actually at two levels. You usually start from the grassroots. That start from the people, the people in the villages. They pay tribute to their village head. Then the village head will now send tribute to the Oba. So I think that was biannually, that is twice a year. Sometimes they could emergency tribute. Sometimes when for example, when the white men came, the European came, and maybe they needed pepper urgently. The Benin the Oba of Benin, that's why the Oba was like law, could just demand an emergency tribute that people were to pay, people were to donate or to give some kind of maybe for example pepper. So everybody will be obliged. They will always oblige the Oba. Yeah, so basically was within the kingdom was at two levels. For outside the kingdom, they were to pay annual tribute. So every year they were to pay tributes through their own agricultural products, sometimes coral beads, carrots, and that like. So, but once this refused, it was always war. And Benin, Joshua at that period, in most cases, they won the war. It was by when he was in studio toward the tail end of the kingdom, when the kingdom now became a little bit weak. But for a long time, during the reign of the warrior king, Benin always won the war. So that's why the territory was so vast.
All right, Collins. We both like to talk about the Oba of Benin and its imperial history. But on page, let me see if it is page 9 or 10. It is page 9. On page 9, you write, the introduction of direct taxation was a major milestone in the political and economic history of colonial Benin. It not only marked a significant increase in British power, but signaled the emergence of a new fiscal order in Benin. This tax system served as a viable substitute to tribute payment, which fetched very little revenue for the administration. Collins, would you say that the foreign system in some cases was superior to the pre-colonial system in Benin?
I would not say that it's superior. I would say it's different. The pre-colonial was actually paid in kind. It was actually paid in kind. But one of the major contribution of this thing, colonial rule, is that they actually introduced the money system. So so they monetize this thing, economy. Before that period, it was barter system, tribute and everything, using agriculture and everything. That's why during that period, nobody in the pre-colonial period, I don't think there were people who were poor because they would just go to farm, get their products and everything. Everybody's just, but when the white man came, especially from 1918, 1919, they actually introduced direct taxes, and that tax had to be paid colonial currency. At that mean you have to pay the cash. So there was at that point, that's when people now needed money. People now needed money. In fact, in the pre-colonial period, it was communism. There was nothing like land was owned communally, was owned by the community. So anybody could just go to any fallow land, cultivate it and everything. You understand? Everybody owns everything collectively. But in the colonial period, because of the introduction of money, the monetary system, there was now this individualism. People now needed to work. People now needed to engage with this colonial economy. And that economy, the colonial rule, they came for trade, so they needed cash crop. Cash crop, like in Benin, was rich in rubber, in oil palm, in timber. So people now need to, and that's why it's actually called cash crop. There were certain crops called cash crop. Those crops, like especially rubber, like for in Benin, in some area like Yoruba speaking area, they had cocoa. But Benin had cocoa, but not so much. But what we had, I think, was rubber. We had rubber. They were timber. We had all those rubber plantation, timber plantation. Then we had, I think, oil palm, this plantation. So people had to engage in those industries, in order to fetch money to actually pay taxes. And because of the introduction of taxes, everything now became monetary, even bride price, like dowry, when a man wants to marry a woman. Then they just get agricultural products, go to the wife's bride's house and they marry. But after during the colonial period, there was now a fee for everything. So you want to pay, I think it was now 24 pounds or to 24 pence for dowry. So everything now became, so the demand to get money became high. And although Benin now became incorporated into the international economy, because under a tribal system, they were a bit could localize just on their own. So we now incorporated into the international economy. We now had money. But one thing about the British, one of the failures of the British, are the British did not create the enabling environment for the monetary system, the money economy to actually thrive. They were not they just wanted to collect. They ought to have brought in some money and everything. So they were just, it was just all about, they wanted to collect, collect, collect. So the people generally, there was very few cash in circulation. So those few cash in circulation, so it led to a lot of things. Women were not involved in armed robbery. Women were not involved in prostitution. The higher rate of divorce, armed robbery, a lot of thuggery now was now on the rise. When there's scarcity, you understand, it now become the survivor of your defeated. So if you say whether it was superior, yeah, you can say yes, he has the merit, he has in terms of the advantage that Benin was now part of the world economy. But in terms of I'm talking about the advantage and disadvantage. If the BC did a better job at, pumping more cash into even the minimum wage, the money that they paid the workers is very low, very low. So if what I'm like, there's very limited money in circulation. So there were a lot of scarcity, and everything now became monetary because people needed to pay tribute. The tribute was per head. We call it per head. For example, in the pre-colonial period, tribute was per household. So you could have a man, his wife, his children. Once the father has paid the tribute, that's for that household. But in the colonial period, it was now per head. So as long as this person is above 80 years, the person has to go and work. So in one household, maybe there are four adults there. They were actually the male. They had to pay taxes. So I would say that. So if we say no, when you ask them, is it super? Is it in terms of structure or in terms of or in terms of benefit? So
I'm
let me
looking
get
at the structure because on page 10, you note another important feature of the native authority system was the creation of a strong local government administration. So the British created a bureaucracy, but you also contend throughout your article that In Benin, African chiefs were employed as an instrument to extract resources, and this led to rent seeking and corruption. So the British did not create a Barbarian bureaucracy in Benin. That's your final conclusion, and I agree with that conclusion.
Yes. So you're talking about the advantage in terms of structure. Okay, I
Yes.
think the tribute system of the pre-colonial period was effective in terms of the two-tier system of government, two-tier there was the most important thing, there was no in terms of evasion. It's like you say people not and the philosophy, there was a philosophy, there was some as an ideology that made people pay that you needed to just like people paying tax what is it not tithes and paying offering in church and everything, people do it voluntarily. So I think in the structure was not necessarily there was a structure, but what made it really tick, what made it very effective was actually the ideology around it. So because the ideology was always very strong, the structure, he drove the structure. People were willing to actually pay. So I don't think there was any problem. But in the colonial period, there was no ideology. Although there was no the ideology was not strong because the people saw the white men as invaders. They came, they humiliated the Oba. They did not see any corresponding benefits from paying tribute, for paying taxes and everything. So the colonial period was not seen as legitimate. That was why the colonial period, in order to create a form of ideology, they now started using the pre-colonial chiefs for tax this collection. But if we want to take a sort of structure, which one was more effective? The colonial, the colonial, they actually established a bureaucracy. So in terms of establishing a structure, they actually try to establish they actually try to establish a structure in Benin. They actually try to establish a bureaucracy as it was different level. In fact, they were different. They're trying to. It was this principle of decentralization, whereby everybody now was there was not like a register, a tax register. So everybody in a particular village where you will be in a particular register, they were accounted for. Everybody were accounted for. So in terms of having a structure, there was actually a structure. But my argument was that if you look at it, but I think it's a philosophy. You can have a structure, but the philosophy was lacking. If you look at the emergence of the emergence of tax in Europe, Europe, something like that happened in Europe before the 17th century. In Britain, they were the king, they were the but because the like in Britain, they needed to fund war. So what happened? So the kings now wielded power. So that's why you see there was not the emergence of a democratic system. So that's why you see in UK you still have the monarchical system, but the monarch where there's some part of their power. So that's why you now have the House of Lords, the House of Commons to the people. So the people who were paying tax, they had a voice. So there was that philosophy. So when the people felt that okay, we have a voice in governance, we can elect our people and everything. So that then that created a better philosophy. So I don't think is the yeah, so that philosophy really so from there, for by the emergence of the House of Lords and the House of Commons, the people paid their tribute. So it was not really about the structure, it was just that willingness to give the people a voice. But for the colonial people, in colonial Benin, the people when were not given a voice. Yes, there was a bureaucracy, but when the people given a voice, could the people talk? Could the people say, okay, fine, this tax resources, we have been able to generate so and so amount. What are we going to do with it? Like, for example, in Britain, that was the essence of the House of Lords. And the people could actually dictate, oh, we want this, we don't want this, we want this. They were able to elect their reps. So that philosophy, I think it's just like in marriage, in everything in life. For example, you called me for this thing. It's not about the structure. It's not really about the structure, but it's all about my willingness. I was already willing to do it. For example, you said we should make, I think around 10. I said no, it will not be possible because I'll be doing some other stuff. But I was already favorably disposed to it. So I just had to. In fact, I was supposed to use them my computer. My computer is actually here, but I just say let me just quickly log on with my phone. So that's why I'm using my phone. I use my
Okay.
computer.
And your phone is doing a
So
good job.
yeah,
Yeah, your phone is
so
actually doing a
it's
good
not.
job.
Yeah, so it's not really about this. So once the philosophy is there, the structure we just follow suit. But in the case of Benin, I think they created a good structure. They accounted for everything, but that philosophy was not there. So that's why they see struggle. They see struggle. They see struggle because that philosophy they kept on monitoring, just like you are forcing somebody to do things. You have to continue forcing the person, but when the person is not there, people stop. So under the colonial system, yes, they created an effective structure. People actually paid, but there was always a lot of dissatisfaction. There was a lot of, that's why people wrote petitions and everything. There's some people who actually voted with their feet. Voted with
Yes.
their feet that people left them. That's why sometimes can be in one village today. By the next tax year, they will migrate to another village and everything. So that's why they kept on having issues and they kept on changing the structure. They kept changing the structure because the philosophy and they try to now use the pre-colonial legitimize system by using traditional chase for tax collection. But basically, the people know that it was actually a foreign system. So that was it. So I just made that comparison because what drove tax collection in Britain, it was actually the philosophy, and that why it was very effective. The British did not do same in Benin, and that's why even it's part of creating a good structure. They still struggled. They still struggled. Even if they not even appointed some local people. There were issues of embezzlement. For example, in 1955, issues of embezzlement of the tax office. So they were always one problem or the other. When people got the opportunity, the slightest opportunity to take advantage of the system and everything, they did it and they did not look back because they felt the system was illegitimate. But in the pre-colonial system, I don't even think the system was so, I don't think the structure was even so good, but nobody took advantage of it because people did it willingly. So
Yes.
that's the
Now,
that's the
Collins,
that's the
this is
difference.
the last quote that I will read pertaining to this issue. The remarkable feature of this arrangement was that the native authorities gained some financial autonomy, which helped strengthen and develop the local administration. This enabled the local officials to govern their territories without always seeking financial resources from the central government. And this is the last point that we're going to discuss before wrapping up the conversation. In your article, you lament that the British sidelined intellectuals who were competent in favor
Mhm,
of corrupt chiefs. And even when we
mhm.
talk about popular representation in relation to the water rate issue, elites were lobbying for popular representation, but the British basically ignored them.
So your first question was like, yes, the essence of these taxes was that before 1918, before 19, what was actually why the taxes were actually beneficial to the British was that when the people like the peasants that started paying them taxes, they now created, I would say, or what can say, a strong local government. They were not dependent on the center anymore. So that actually that actually relieved them. So my point is that between 1897, when Benin was conquered, to 1918, it was 1918, that's when they introduced direct taxes. Between 1897 to 1918, it was indirect taxes. That means people were not paying colonial taxes, which is, I'm not in the pre-colonial period, people were paying tribute, right? Then between 1897 to 1918, they were not paying, no, it was not paying colonial tribute. So they were still paying it in kind. So during that period, all the expenses was footed by the central government in Nigeria. The Benin system was just like subordinate. It was not independent. So everything that they wanted, or that stationery, whatever, they had to write to the central government. I think the capital was in Lagos or there, but so it was the central government in Nigeria, that's in Lagos. for all their expenses because the local administration in Benin was not generating revenue. But in 1918, they now decided to introduce direct taxes to Benin. So the local administration in Benin now started generating revenue. So it now created like a strong local government. But the point is that that strong local government was for the benefit of the British. So because when you ask to say yes, they're not a strong local government, they were not financially independent. Okay, fine. What structure did they yes, they put in some structure, but all the structure they put in, it was just to facilitate trade. So you find out that there were some find out that they built some roads, there was a few hospitals and everything, but were they enough for the people? No. In fact, the hospitals they were just for the few, and the hospital they were free paying, so the people had to pay to seek medical attention. I'm coming. Sorry. Yes. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I'm coming.
All right.
Okay. I'm coming.
So Collins. Okay.
I'm
Well, hello, Collins. Were you muted? All right then.
No, sorry. I'm with you. I'm coming.
Okay. So you can just unmute yourself again, please. All right.
Hello.
Yeah, Collins, I'm still here, and as I said earlier, we're wrapping up. So that was actually your last speech, Collins.
Okay.
Yeah, we're wrapping
Yes,
up.
yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, because you explain the deficiencies inherent in the system, and that was the question. So you're actually delivering your last speech. So we're wrapping up now. And as for the issue with the water rate, that's just an example. The elites in Benin wanted greater representation, and the British ignored them. I was not really looking forward to commentary. I was just pointing out the example that you listed in your article. So thanks for showing up.
Okay, 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 okay. It was a pleasure. Pleasure chatting with you.
Yes, I'm really interested in the history of Benin, and I'm sure that at some point we'll talk again. Do you have a book, Colin?
A book? No, no, no,
Oh,
no,
but you
no,
have
no,
several
no.
articles. Are you planning to write a book?
Perhaps in the future, maybe for okay, you publish. I have my PhD work. I don't know. Can it be can it be in a book?
Yeah, many people turn their PhDs into books, so that could be your first book. But your articles are enough for a book. I think you should write a book.
Mm. Yeah. I'll give it a shot. Just different things.
Yeah. All right. Bye,
Different things
Colin.
occupying me.
Okay. All right then. Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye.